So I have played over 50 hours of inZOI during a playtest, and this is my honest review. For context, I've basically done everything in this game. I have created a family, got a child and married a wonderful wife. She was actually burning down to death while I was meeting Emma Watson in the park. I built several houses, including a Star Destroyer, and, well, actually Han shot first. Then I also explored the city, made sure to find out every single detail of the game, and also brought my brother's cat into the game, because why not? So I think I'm well prepared to give you a very condensed but also very in-depth review of this game. So without further ado, let's get started. And the first topic, well, obviously because that is the selling point of this game as of now, is the graphics. It's using Unreal Engine 5 and it is, well, what shall I say, freaking stunning. It is absolutely magnificent how this game looks. Everything is very, very realistic, from the lighting to the models to everything you can imagine. Just for context, I was playing this on a system that I would say is rather high-end, but it's definitely not top-notch anymore. So I'm gonna put the details up on screen right now so you can read them all. So you know, processor-wise I'm kind of okay, but then again, the graphics card isn't the newest anymore, pretty decent still. However, and this is something I have to mention, for the most part of my test, the performance was absolutely staggering. It was really great. I had eventual stutters, yes, but for a beta, like a very early playtest, this was really good. And you know, I've been doing several playtests in the last couple of years being a YouTuber, and most of the times the performance didn't really, you know, it was good, but never that stable. I've very rarely had tests that, you know, I had so little hiccups and so little fully kind of, you know, crashes that destroyed my save games and so on. Just had 2 or so in this one. So I want to say the graphics are amazing, but I will say they come with a bit of a caveat, but we are going to talk about this in the conclusion. So let's move over to the next point, which is the character editor. You may think I'm just going to be here sitting here and think, oh my god, it is absolutely freaking amazing. Well, it is pretty damn good. However, it is a bit of a, you know, two-sided thing. On the one hand, it is absolutely amazing, and certain things you can absolutely crazily edit. For example, the eyebrows of characters. You have several controls to make them pop out more. You have different styles. You can make them go higher, lower. You can change the tilt of them, and like the size of them, and the amount of hair and the colors. Like, it goes into that super detail. But then again, if you take the nose, for example, it only has like 2 or 3 points you can really edit, and you have to change the entire head model to get different nose variants. Like, it is in game, but I would love to just have the same option as with eyebrows or eyes. Just let me choose a different nose instead of going for an entire face. That is kind of odd in a way. And this kind of continues through the character editor. It is mega powerful, and the fashion itself, there's barely anything I want to mention about this, because you can almost create every outfit already in this tiny demo. But if you're not even satisfied with that, you can even create your own custom fashion. There has been a contest a while ago where people got the full power of the editor and they created crazy outfits and stuff that you can take as a blueprint, or you can create even fashion yourself by using the in-game fashion editor, which for this demo version it was just a small one where you could, you know, change some colors and stuff. But in general, it is super powerful and does really not leave that much room for improvement, because it is already pretty damn impressive. Which I can't say the same about the lips, for example, and the overall head form and so on. So I wish that, you know, it is 80% there, but I wish that they could go these other 20% missing. Is like a bit of consistency. You know, when you have already such a crazy editing for the eyes, I think the eyes are maybe the most relevant thing to a face in that sense, in this game at least, and you have, if I'm not completely wrong, I think in total 8 to 9 control points per eye that you can also, you know, control individually from where the lid sits and so on, and how the form factors. And I wish, you know, if you have that, and the way how the UI works and so on is totally fine by me, but I wish to have the same amount of control on every body part available. Like, I don't need to have that for the, you know, belly maybe, but, you know, give it for hands, for feet, and for whatever. Like, if you give this control to people, well, let's do this. But at the same time, I would love to have a little bit more of a quicker access to the body parts. So like, let's just choose some form factors. I want to have like a roundish head, or like a very flat head, or like a very long head, or like a very big chin. Like, just quickly getting to a certain degree of a human body or face you want to do, and then go into the nitty-gritty details. That would be lovely, which you can already do with certain elements like the eyes and the eyebrows. That's exactly the workflow you have, but it would be lovely to have that in a consistent way. And there is, and you know, I'm a bit split on that, there is this tiny bit of the Korean influence to the bodies and to the models, which always lets a character look a little bit, a tiny bit Korean, and honestly, I'm fine with that. The more I thought about that, you know, it's a Korean studio, it just makes sense, and honestly, maybe it was also like a lack of talent that I wasn't able to do these crazy things, because out there, the people have created freaking one-by-one recreations of Emma Watson, Angelina Jolie, and I saw another other ones. Ridiculous. They were on point. So it seems like the editor is already capable of that. It was just me not being capable of. And this one is, it is chef kiss, you know. I just gave you a bit of room for improvement, I would say, but even the version I had, it was already insane, and the general public had the chance to play it during Gamescom as well, and people have been creating crazy stuff. Which, let's just keep on talking about creating and go into the build mode. Don't worry, I'm gonna leave the gameplay for the last bit because it is the most thing we need to talk about, but let's talk about building first. Okay, so building is obviously another big part of a live sim game. Well, next to the character editor, you have the building. It's kind of chronologically, first you do the character, and then you want to have a house where they live in. First things first, the overall UI and how everything is working is very great for me. It is obviously pretty similar to live sim games that you know. The different levels of the building you can simply click during the AI UI, changing between the play mode and the edit mode. All these kind of things are in there, so I don't need to really talk about that. Honestly, in my workflow, I loved the overall UI. It just, the more I used it, the better it became, and it was a lot more fluid and intuitive than many other games I've played, and especially also in comparison to The Sims, to be fair. However, there were a couple of things I wish they would just go back to the drawing board a little bit, because what I love about this game is how easily you can create certain things. So let's start with the very strong parts of the building mode. They already embedded kind of a little cheat for creators like me who don't really care too much about function but want to have it look great, and holding down the shift key in inZOI basically creates a little bit override key where you can put things in a spot that you usually couldn't. So let's say you want to put a chair closer to something, you can easily do so. You can easily switch between the grid mode or the freeform mode, which is great because in the grid mode you can easily rotate a piece by 45 degrees and have like this grid to really lay out your room. But if you want to do it completely 360 degrees free, you can do so. However, many pieces also can be not scaled but moved in a very precise way without any attachment point. But if you need one because you want to build quicker, you can use a magnetic raster to do so. So everything is in that you can imagine. Very strong, very also complete, like the different categories that you can access in this game, from all the different rooms and from laundry room to hobby room and all these things are amazing. And there's already a lot more in the base game that you, in comparison to other live sim games where you needed to wait for some DLCs to have certain categories, and them being in let us already imagine that these will even be filled with a lot more items in the final version. Speaking of, if you are not happy with the, you know, let's say with the furniture you have, you can even create your own furniture by going into a furniture editor and then basically create your very own furniture. Buy all the pieces that are in the game. You can literally take all the legs and stuff from one chair and put it onto another to create your very own one. So the mix and match possibilities in this are unparalleled and honestly create an even greater choice. I never really got to this point during my playtest because I was already pretty happy with the in-game stuff. But hell, if you want this, and if I would have it for longer, because at the moment I don't have access to the game anymore, just as a little hint, then you would have the chance to create even more. And in the future it will be even more elaborate, as they showed us, where you can even create your own legs and scale them and, you know, switch a couple of things out. Or if you're even more unhappy, you can 3D scan any item that you want to, just as I did with the cat of my brother. Putting that one in game was also funny to kind of make almost like a kid pillow, as there are animals in this game, but they're not in-game as a pet right now. They're just roaming freely in the city. Well, not even roaming, they're just in the city, but more about that later. So all in all, the build mode is absolutely fantastic when it comes to what it is capable of. But then there are also some downsides of it, and this is being the walls, and I want to say the general structure being very much down to the 45-degree grid, which honestly, with all the freedom you have and all the other things, and let me just mention, everything is flexi-color in all the colors you can that are available, so no worries about having preset color variants anymore. You can, everything you have, you can even choose different materials and colors and glossiness. Insane. But then again, as I said, you are with the general structures, meaning roofs and walls and levels and floors, they are related to the grid, which makes it a bit harder to build something very freeform and nice, because you always need to make sure that you have the 45 degrees. And even though with a little bit of a hack, you were able to put down staircases and rotate them in any direction, that caused a weird issue in the roofs, which at the end of the day makes it impossible to be used other than in a 45-degree angle relative to the wall, because that creates a nice opening to the next level. So this is something that definitely has to be reworked a little bit and give us like the option to have also round shapes, because in the demo there was no round shape. Goes for roofs and for walls. And last but not least, and this is maybe the only thing where I would say there needs to be a complete change. Everything else is great as it is, just needs a bit of fletching out and making it final till the final game, make sure that all the walls and stuff work as I just said. But the way floors are tackled, I really don't like. Like, floors are not a element on their own, at least not now. They are more likely a editable thing as soon as you put down a room. So let's say you just have drawn out 4 walls creating a room, automatically the floor is generated, the lower floor and the ceiling, which both of them you can then choose and give it a specific material, which looks great and all, but you don't have control to create a floor yourself. So let's say if you want to build a terrace outside, you can't do this with like a terrace tool or like a floor tool. You just need to have a room in order to have that. Other than that, you didn't have any options to paint the ground. You actually needed to use tiles, individual tiles, to put them down. I feel like that can be reworked in order to achieve even something greater. But all in all, the build mode for me personally was already a lot more in-depth, challenging, and also rewarding than the one in The Sims, for example, in The Sims 4, even though it is maybe the most powerful out there. But the problem I have with that one is that it just feels so clunky, because it has been added and added and added over time without being everything coherent out of one thing, you know what I mean? And then you have all the CC available. So feeling a completely new building tool that has made endless possibilities from the get-go feels a lot more intuitive and coherent, if that makes sense to you. So that's why I like it, but there's a lot of room to improvement. So in comparison to the character editor or the graphics, this is definitely something they have to work on. Another thing that needs a little bit of work, or at least as I assume, is the jobs. Working is a thing in the game, and you can become a lot of different professions if you want to. And in this demo, 2 maps were available, so it's the big city and the Bliss Bay area, which meant that you have several jobs, like working in a theme park, amusement park, or in a surf shop, and you can also have different jobs either in the office or on the ground. The same goes for a restaurant. So that was all nice, and also the way that you do have a job and actually do the job is super cool to see, that you need to fulfill certain tasks and then level up a little bit over the time. Honestly, it was a bit rural and bare bones, because that was just for the testing reasons. So at least I wasn't able to get a raise, for example, or a promotion. So that would be interesting to see, or if you can just switch between jobs. And these kind of things are something that is lovely to see. One thing I can say though, and that's pretty cool, because I was able to speak to the lead dev of this game during the Gamescom days. I was invited to a party, which thanks again, Crafton, by the way. And I was able to actually address a couple of things, and we were also talking about this, that you can't skip this at this moment. Like, you can't really skip if you're just playing one ZOI, for example. I mean, I played multiple, but I also tried this with one ZOI. You can't really skip going to work or skip going to university. Like, it just happens, and then you need to do something else in the city, which is kind of odd. And I would love to have the option to skip it, or let's simulate it, is that maybe the better word? Because I myself, I'm a player, I enjoy it maybe for doing it once or twice, but having that each day clicking me through a work is just, I don't know if that's so rewarding or fulfilling. And if you would simulate that to get quickly promotions, that would be super unrealistic, because after 3 days you may already be CEO of your surf shop that you've just started at as a trainee a couple days ago. So I don't really know. I just, also needs like a time-based factor that you need at least to work for like 2 weeks so in there to be able to get a promotion. Like all these things are not in place right now, but I can't really judge them because in the demo you couldn't even go that far. But I would love to see if that's a thing, or maybe I didn't see that, because there's so much to do in this game. I literally couldn't even do everything in these 3 weeks of access we had, and I tried my best already to put all the hours in available somehow. But yeah, so the jobs are something that require a bit of work, but honestly, I think a bit more variation in these jobs would be nice. Also the chance to simulate them, to switch jobs, to get fired maybe, and all these things. But it looks promising. Honestly, I must say it was super rewarding for me, and I haven't played Sims in such a long time, so I'm not really aware of how the jobs work back there. But I honestly, for me personally, without a comparison, I like the idea how it was realized, like getting there, changing room, having the different tasks and different time variants. Also the tasks were also pretty flexible, which I liked, from cleaning desks to being at the counter to checking the shelves and stuff like that. It's just kind of realistic. Talk to customers, so that's nice. I wasn't even able to check the office jobs, unfortunately, which would have been cool as well. But I gotta say, at least this is very promising. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say I did test it enough, or maybe the demo didn't offer enough to give a final judgment on that. But at least it is pretty much baked into the game. It is a huge thing, because honestly, it could have been just a simulated thing. And honestly, that is something you would see from other games too. So it's great to have it. And I think that's all I want to say about that. Let's move on to the next one, which is city customizations. And looking at the timer, I don't want to keep that too long. Make this too long because it's relatively quickly answered. It is already bonkers how much you can change with your city, and that the city develops over time. You can almost edit every single element in your area, starting from the prefab buildings to later on you will be able to change some of the other buildings, like the restaurant you're working in, or some public stores that you can access. You can literally change everything about the city, and then also change the appearance of the city, put in your own billboards, put in your own style, change foliage, change fauna, change the animals available in there, change the seasons and all these kind of things. For me personally, that was really great to see and super powerful. You could even lose yourself in there, and that was mega to see. But now let's talk about the big thing, the gameplay. As we all know, in a live sim, this may or may not be the most important part, and oh boy, do I have to say something here. So, this was maybe the single most asked question during the entire gameplay I offered to you guys was, how's the gameplay, how's the gameplay, how's the gameplay? And for me personally, and I have to put this up front, is very hard to answer, because in this sense, gameplay is not a fixture. It is different to every single live sim player. Me, myself, I'm more towards being able to build something great and then being able to play with this. And I don't really care too much about the long-term game simulation, if you will. Like, I'm happy if the city at one point is full and with a lot of Zoes that do that thing. So that is absolutely amazing in this game. You can, checkmark, you can do that. However, there is obviously all these people out there who want to play like a story mode almost, develop your sim over, the Zoe over time, I shall say. And honestly, that what already was in-game, I found super promising. Like, a lot of these things are very similar, so you don't really need to go too much into detail. Obviously, you can click them around. One big advantage I found is that you have the WASD control over your sim yourself, so you can literally walk through everything and do what you want to do. I want to have, though, an active button that lets me interact with my environment, which is crazy to say, but you're moving around, you have the WASD, and then you still need to click on the fridge with your mouse key and just do whatever you want with the fridge. I would love to be able to just, like in every other FPS game where you have, like, for example, E as the interaction key, you just click E and then the fridge menu pops up, and you can even maybe move with the arrow keys or use your mouse then. But that would be a bit more nice of a quality of life update. But then again, speaking about the options in general, it felt very familiar, you know? You have all the options, getting to know someone. It is separated into, like, professional relationship, which goes for, you know, like work and stuff. Then you have, like, friendship, and you've got love, obviously, and you can fall in love with any Zoe around your city that you just randomly meet on your street, which I did in my playthrough. And then you need to become, it first of all is a crush, then it's kind of a mutual crush, then it becomes a lovers, and then you can actually do a marriage and become basically a couple that also can get a kid. I want to say this was handled a little bit more on the, well, easy side, I want to say, because all of these main events remain cutscenes for the moment. You can edit these cutscenes even to your liking, so you can, in the Zoe Studio, which is another element of this gameplay I want to mention, there is the chance to create your own scenes. There's literally a studio in which you can build your own scene and then put your Zoes in and let them do some actions, you know. For example, I know that a lot of Livestream players out there love to create their very unique stories and almost movie-like things. In this game, that is super nicely doable because you can literally create the scene of your life. You can apply filters to make it black and white, to have like a good old noir movie, or you can have a poppy graphics, you can have comic-y graphics, or you can just make like a almost like Marvel comic style, you know, movie kind of scene, and then make them interact with each other. You can directly capture this from the game, either as a photo or a video later on in the game. So there are so many elements to keep you busy playing this game. What I am a little bit hesitant about is the long-term fun of it, because even in my, well, 20-ish hours I actively did try the gameplay, a lot of things became repetitive, which is down to the fact that it's super limited. You know, at this point of time we only have the 2 maps, and you don't really have a long-term like thing you could do with the jobs, and all the dialogues are not fully you know, done as of now. There is a lot more options, but I felt like there has to be a bit more dynamic in, so that you have more variation in your dialogues. You've got more, actually also what I also want to have is I want to have more variables that you can't control. So everything I tried to get in love with someone always worked out, no matter what happened, no matter the interest, no matter the traits. That could be down to the demo version just to see if it works, but as you can choose a major trait up front to your character, you even have to. I would love to see how that influences, so that 2 people having a completely contrary trait either can't go together or have to have a different conversation before they can get together, for example. That would be lovely, because then it would also spice up the overall gameplay to make it more relevant. I do assume, and that's also what the dev confirmed to me, that this was a very, very, very scrapped down version to get the main systems up and running and see what people do with it. So it was already pretty good, and as this is all, like everything I was talking about is a lot of variables and a lot of text, but it's nothing in particular that can't be done easily. So I'm very, very, very happy with how all the options play out. Just to give you an example, you can obviously have a job, but you could also just go out into the park, for example, and use one of these like little shops you have over there and sell your own created fashion that I was just talking about. You can even offer this in-game to other Zoes, and then they can buy it. And if you're successful with that, you can actually become an online vendor in this game and have your local shop, if you want to, at the beach, and make some marketing for that. And then actual Zoes will come to the beach and buy your stuff. And this is literally your job then, which you're earning money. So there is already a very nice layer of differences to other games, and including, which I as a daddy found super nice, because I know how that is. If your kid goes to daycare or to the school, they may come back with a disease, and then you need to have either medicine at home, or you need to actually take care of a Zoe by using other clothing, or maybe having a hot bath, for example, which also was an element I liked. So if your Zoe is frustrated or displeased or so, certain activities become impossible to do, which you first of all need to care for them, their well-being, before they are able to do certain things again like that. Another point I talked to the dev about that will be fixed is that pregnant women still can do sports, which I found a bit odd. So that's going to be patched out. definitely making sure that pregnant women are not able to do. Also, I want to mention I love the fact that the belly was growing over time. You've got a 3-day rhythm until the pregnancy is done, and then you go to birth and so on, which is again something I really love. So you can hear that already. There is a lot in here, and I personally, that is just my personal opinion, because as I said up front, this is why I did frame it this way. Gameplay is very subjective in a game like that. It's not like a strategy game where you can really say it is hard or not, or it is fulfilling or not. There are some rules to that where you can easily judge it. You can't say it's a management game in that sense where you can really decide how much money has an input or not. This is a life sim game, and it really depends on what you do with it. But exactly this is the reason why I would say this is a very good gameplay already in place. Remember, it is just a demo, and it's just been a creator demo to test the systems, like a play test to gather data, which I gotta say, it was so much fun. And you know, I'm gonna talk more about that in the conclusion in a bit. This is one of the best gameplays I've had in a long time, simply because it was so versatile and there was so much to do. Only in that one city. I didn't even get to play that second city, the downtown, too much, because I was so obsessed with Bliss Bay, which is a very good sign. Alright, last chapter is miscellaneous, because there are a couple of things I want to talk about that don't really require a full category, because they're too quick to talk about, but they're still very necessary. Let's start with the canvas. There is a way to share your creations with the world, which is great. It's basically like a Steam workshop, and you can literally create all your prefabs, your room prefabs and all that kind of stuff. You can all save as a blueprint and share that with the world. Other people can download it and put it in your areas wherever you need them, or apply that to your ZOIs. That is pretty good. It's just one of these things. You need to just have that check mark done, and honestly, that's great. The next point I quickly want to talk about is the performance, which is a hard one to talk about, because everyone who has been playing this game right now as a creator has a decent computer. And I want to say that this, as great as this is, and I'm a person who loves that, I would always favor this graphics over the content, the vast content of The Sims, for example. However, that's just me, and I'm fully aware that this graphics will be a limiting factor to a wider audience. It will be a decisive factor for the success of this game, because it is granted that not as many people can play this game as they could, for example, Paralives or The Sims, or potentially Live by You, even though Paradox, you know what I mean. But this game, as it's being so crazy on graphics, will have a performance-heavy computer system required. That said, and this is just me being very cautious here, but that said, I was already pretty pleased with the performance, as I said earlier, regarding my system and it not being fully optimized. I had everything on the fullest, everything on highest, and it still ran very fine, as you can see with the footage and all the other videos I've put out. Just make yourself an image, check out the other videos. Except some hiccups here and there, it was really decent. But, you know, it has to prove when it's fully done. And where we are at with our current systems in general. But it will be a little bit of a bottleneck for a wider audience, granted. Never mind. Let's talk about the studio application in this game. There is an application in this game which is called Studio. You can either do the studio with your ZOI yourself, like if you create a ZOI, you can do different poses and you can do different nice things. However, the studio itself lets you change certain areas of your city. It lets you change supermarkets. It lets you change the scene of certain areas. You can even create your very own scene, which is amazing. As I said earlier with the gameplay, you can literally, if you want to change a cutscene or you want to integrate a cutscene, you can create a virtual room and create a cutscene. For example, there is a prefab of a news center, and then you could use your ZOI as a news speaker, as how's this dude called, or the person called, so the anchorman. You can actually become an anchorman of a show and do some dialogues and stuff with that. And the fun bit is you can even take out your phone, use your phone as a webcam, and apply your own mimics to your ZOI. I haven't done that, but I know that it works. You can actually film yourself like in a face filter and then apply that mimics to your ZOI, which makes these studio scenes even more powerful, that you can even create your own stuff. You can literally do your intros as a YouTube creator, as I did, with your very own avatar, if you will, and then create something like that. It is bonkers, and I absolutely adore that. The overall UI and style of the game I want to mention real quick, because I was obsessed with it. I have very rarely seen such a coherent and nice design throughout an entire game's UI and just design language as a whole. Everything very K-pop cute white, but with a touch of professionalism and serious appeal to it, like this AR company vibe going through the whole menu and so on. Just, I don't know, for me personally, it just clicked so much. Everything was super nice feeling, everything in control, everything just nice. I mean, the things I talked about as points of improvements are more like logic and coherency things in terms of the functions within the UI and not the overall UI. What I mean by coherency is like all the icons fitting very well together, and the colors they have chosen for the UI, the way the UI sits in the game and overlays certain things, how they interact with shadows or bright areas. In a game like that, the UI is super relevant because you do literally play this game with every UI element. It's not like a racing game or so where it is just granting you information. It is a very interactive thing in a game like that, so it has to be good. And it is. It really is great. So these were the miscellaneous points. I think that it's time now to go to the conclusion after half an hour, which we actually needed, and I'm gonna get into why. So, up front, I gotta say, I am obviously a little bit biased by the fact that I was given access to the game by Krafton to play this playtest, and also was invited to a wonderful party at Gamescom. So just as a full honest point here, okay? So you know the context of that. But there is no limitation, no guideline or anything. I'm allowed to say whatever I want, and this is my personal opinion. I haven't been paid for that. I just was given access to, check out the game. So I think this is important for the conclusion, so you have a very good idea where I'm coming from. But as many people were already pointing that out during my other videos, I haven't held back with feedback and points of improvement. So it seems like this review is also being super positive, and in a way it is, but it shouldn't overshadow the fact that there's a long way to go. I did review this as what it was, a demo, a not finished version of a game that delivers an idea of a great game potentially in the future. So what I'm saying is, all these things obviously I was talking about that are great in the game have to be proven in a final game. We've seen it so often that games had a very promising playtest, very promising demo, but then even the strong points of the game became an issue later on, because as they got more fleshed out and fully grown, the thing that at the beginning seemed to be great became an issue later. All of these things said, I really doubt this being the case here. I have a super great feeling about this, and let me just give you an idea why, by something very emotional and absolutely not objective. But I've had so many playtests in the last 6 years of great games, and none of these playtests have captured me like this. None of these have made me go play a game at night during my holiday, which I did with this one. And none of these have been capturing me for over 50 hours in this playtest. And I don't really have that much time. I'm having a full-time job, I'm having a kid and a wife. So I did put away all the other games I have to just play that game for 3 weeks. No other game than Planet Coaster or Planet Zoo, which are my two most favorite games on this channel, have ever done this. None of the games have ever met this level of, addiction, I should say. And this is, in this eloquent group of games I've been playing in the last years, one of the best things you can say about a game. I mean, make yourself a picture of what kind of games I've tested on the channel so you get an idea. But I think the main reason why that is because this game is such a promise to the future. It feels so fresh and new to a genre that is already ancient, that is already with us since the beginning of computer games, Whereas Roller Coaster Tycoon, The Sims, and Transport Tycoon, and Command & Conquer all these games being the starting point of a whole genre, and I grew up with those, and this is the point where I feel like we need this competitor. We need a game that brings a fresh perspective to this genre, and inZOI is the game that is putting up a challenge here, and I feel like this is exactly what we need at this point. We need this now to have the vision for what it will be in a couple of months and next year, and I can't wait what people are going to create with this. I feel like the vision that the team has is mega, and at the same time, my concerns are lightened a little bit, and I don't really have that many concerns anymore when I was first hearing about this, because I know the team, I know how dedicated they are, and I've played the game and literally felt how stable and good it already is. I also want to reinforce that a lot of these detailed things I was talking about have to be fixed. You know, the devil is in the detail, as you would say. And, you know, being in this situation, judging this as a demo, I can just look over these at some points, but I will need to look into them as a full game to guarantee a long-term play kind of joy and enjoyment for the play. I am fully aware that it is going to be a long and hard way, but I really want to say that this game is one of the most promising games I've seen in a while, and I want it to be successful. I want it to be the challenger that we are all craving. I want it to be the game that, you know, lives up to the hype it has created now, and I think there's a good chance. There is obviously a lot they have to work on, especially when it comes to the building editor, because other games have improved that upon years, and specifically when it comes to the roofing, there was a bit that we need to do. Then what I was talking about, the character editor has to just create a new logic so that it makes sense in all directions and give us control over everything. And the gameplay has obviously to prove that everything on the surface we've seen is as great the deeper you go into the longer play, which is relevant to a game like that. You want to have fun, play a full life simulation life cycle of your Zoe, otherwise it doesn't make sense. Go to daycare, go to school, go to university, find a person, meet the person, get in love, buy a flat together, you know, do whatever you need, do as a couple, and then maybe get parents yourself. This needs to feel relevant and individual each time you do that, you know. And this is something I can't judge at this point because I didn't have the time, because the game maybe wasn't that fully fledged out as of now. And if these things are hit, and I feel like a broken record at this point, this will be a great game. So hopefully you found this helpful if you want to continue following this thing. And if you want to continue this channel, you will be rewarded with even more inZOI content, because I still have some footage left, which I'm going to put some funny videos together. But I wanted to get this review out now, as I had a bit of more than a week to just think about this without the game. And honestly, having a week without the game made me feel how much I miss it, and I was like, okay, I have to do the review right now, because that is just more than an honest feeling. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this review helpful. It may be a little bit longer than other people do it, but I really wanted to give you all the context and my experience to hopefully have a better picture of what this game is, in case you didn't have the chance to play it yet. So thank you so much as always, and I would love to welcome you on my channel. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so right now and become one of the members who joined this channel before 100k, because I hope we will reach this year. So thank you so much for all the support. Have a wonderful time, and goodbye.